So guys, the last lesson, we did the planes of the skull, relatively planes of the skull, but we can say these are the planes of the skull. Now, what can we do this video is the normal skull. I mean the skull, but a little bit more with the teeth and everything, which I'm not sure it's the best, idea for making sure you know the basics. So for the basics, it's better to know the basics, basically. Let me just turn on my shortcuts because they are not here. Screencast keys, okay, now you can see them on top. And the idea is that the nicest exercise you can make for the basics of the head is this, to make a skull without the teeth. But it's more fun if it has teeth, if it has everything. So we will do that. So now I will just disable the visibility of this. Then I will add a sphere. Go to sculpt mode and start doing it again. So remember, this is not a course for Blender. This is a course for the head and the skull. The skull is a very important part of the head, if you don't know. But now you know. So let's do this first. Let's make ourselves a little bit of a chin. And when we have something like a chin, we can increase the head of the back. So, let me tell you one of the most important things. Again, a big mistake that people are making. People, usually, these days, are making the mistake to make the face part, which is, let me show you which one is the face part. The face part is from here, from the eyebrows to the chin. This is the face part here. So this part, they tend to make it smaller, much smaller than this part. So it is smaller, definitely, because if you see, this is one rectangle. It's not a square. A square will be around this area here. So a little bit behind the ear, in reality, is the square part. So this, from this point to here, the same distance as from this point to here. But people are tending to make this much bigger sometimes. And sometimes the other mistake is to make it much smaller. You see? And you've seen that probably. So the idea is to make it exactly right, or at least very close to right. We cannot make it exactly right, of course, but we can always make it a little bit close to the right than not. That's why you have to use a lot of references, and also you have to practice a lot. So don't expect after this course to be amazingly better in heads. You will be better, definitely, but you will not be super good. But if you do this course, these are exercises. You can do them constantly, one after another. And then what I recommend is, very importantly, you do those things from references. Always use references for skulls, always use references for heads. And when you finish one kind of a cycle of this, so making few heads from just planes of the head, making few skulls, and then you will know a little bit more, and you will feel a little bit more the overall things. And then you can close all references and try to make the head without references. This will give you the idea what you know, what you remember, what you don't know, what you don't remember, and then you will start to see your weak points. You'll say, but how was the nose? The nose, I don't know. But you will make it without reference, and then you will know that you have to turn more attention to the nose and to see how the nose is connecting to the head, like an arch here, you know, and all those things you will be able to see. At least you will start to see them, because I know from myself that it took me a lot of time to start seeing all those things. Hopefully for you it will be a little bit faster with these exercises, of course. Now the back of the head, of course, I will make it a little bit wider. It's like a sphere almost. The back, it's not exactly a sphere, especially here in the bottom part of the back we have this kind of things going on. And also the jaw is finishing in about a middle point. You see this yellow line here is about the middle point of the side of the skull, and there is where we will place our jaw. It will end, the jaw will end there, and then we will have this kind of process of mandibular, or whatever it's called, this process here, this kind of bony mark behind the ear, where our sternocleidomastoid muscle is attached, which is the best muscle, as we know, in the human body, because its name is one of the most complex names. It's not the most problem, because I don't know the names of most muscles, but it's very complex and I like it. Now, for the skull, what I like to start here to do is to make this kind of area above the cheekbone, which will go in. You know, this area will go a lot in. So I will smooth it a little bit. This I will leave it more sharp, and we'll leave it like this. Now, okay, something like this. It's not perfect in any case, but it's fine. Now I will push for the eyes, and then with the grab or move brush, I will just, from a side view, just move this a little bit in. As you can see, in the male or in the female, we have this kind of indentation. It's not super huge, but it's there. So where is our skull? Pressing home will find it. Now I would like to just control spacebar, and I will get rid of the menus on the right. We don't need them. Now I will drag here because I want to make space for the cheekbone and the mouth, which is starting. Now be careful when you're doing a head, because this is on the skull. On the head also I will dig here, but not that deep, because on the head you have muscles going out here, connecting those areas here, and this is not that deep here. It's kind of deep again, but it's not that deep. So we have to be careful with that. I will smooth it also here, and I will make sure that my cheekbone is where? From the side view, it's kind of from the eyebrow, it's going backwards, a line going backward like this. You see? From the eyebrow, a line going backwards like this. And it's connecting it. This is the cheekbone here. Okay, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. So, next thing, I will make sure I have these little bumps here on the front of the skull, because even in female you have to have a little bit of a bumps. You see here, it's a little, it's not too much, it's not very visible, but if you don't have them, you know, it's not gonna be good. And this is basically a male skull that we're trying to do. So let's look at the male skull. Let's look at the male. Although I like more the female skull. I think this is more classical look of the skull. But let's make a little bit of a male skull. The more things you try to do, the more kind of interesting things you try to do, which are realistic, of course, and you are looking from them. And also a very good exercise is to make studies based on other people's art, because you see this looks very nice, and you can try to replicate it, and you will see the cheekbones, how they flow into this kind of meat around the mouth here. You see this, and overall this shape. But we will do something like this at some point, because it will be very interesting. I think this part of the exercises will be very, very cool. So that's why we want to do it. Now we have to also be careful about this here. It's not always, but it's like this. Yeah, probably it's like this. So, yeah. All right, doesn't matter. Now let's continue with our cheekbone. Cheekbone. Then I will make the outer side of the jaw. This outer part of the jaw. Then I will push this, because you see how the skull is connected. The skull, so the cheekbone is here. The cheekbone. This is the side part of the cheekbone, and then it turns back, you know, here, and then it goes like this, and those are the back teeth. And then here, this plane is sideways almost. And this is the kind of front part of the skull. Okay, now, yeah, I'm trying to explain. Hopefully you can understand. If you don't, it's normal. Don't worry. You will understand at some point. When you practice. You know, this all things that I'm talking about, sometimes I'm drawing and stuff, it's theory. But practice is more important and you have to try to practice more. Theory is okay. Practice is more important. Even if you don't, you know, hear at all about the theory, if you practice a lot, at some point you will understand all those things. With the theory that I'm talking about here and with the practice exercises that I'm doing, most likely you will get it even faster. So you see, now I have a basic shape of the skull, which looks, in my opinion, kind of cool. Always from the top view, I'm trying to make this cheekbones curvy here, curving outward, because they are, definitely are, as you can see, they're curving a lot outward. But we have to be careful. You don't judge everything by just looking at one skull. We look at a lot of skulls, but this point of view of the skull is kind of unique. It's difficult to look the skull from below. I mean, to find references for that. So that's why this is unique, and you can see the curve, you can see the hole here, and all those things. So it's kind of unique. It's fine. I like it. Now, I will smooth this area, and I will make sure my jaw has the shape that I want. So the shape that I want is straight here, as you can see, straight here, and then straight lines going inward, and then a little bit of this kind of shape. And you see, it will look very much like a real skull. Here I will have to push a little bit more, and the eyes, we will see how they go. But as you know, they're going like this, and then a little bit down-ish. So the shape of the eyes, of the eye sockets in this case, don't misshape them. They have to have this kind of shape. Like glasses, like Ray-Ban glasses, of course. So yeah, let's continue working on that. This I will make sure it's kind of a arch going upward, and you see this skull is starting to look pretty cool. So for this male skull, they have chosen pretty malish specimen, a guy who is having pretty malish, like the jaw is very much angular than the female. You can see how the angle is much, let's not say bigger, because this is the bigger angle. This is the smaller angle, but still the jaw itself still seems more massive here. You know, it's like this part from the cheekbone here, from the ear hole, which is just above here. So from the ear hole to here, it's much bigger distance. But in real life, this is not exactly that exaggerated sometimes, or most of the time. So you have to be careful. But when we're doing a hero character, we will have this most likely. A hero will always be heroic, you know, style. And also from the front view, as you can see, what the skull looks like is not a sphere. Let me show you. Very important from the front view. So almost straight lines here, and then we have something like a roof with a little bit of a curve here. Especially, I am exaggerating it, but you have to notice that, because you see, even in the female, it's like this. But there are different types of skulls, so your reference, it depends how it will be. But most of the time, female references will have hair. That's why you just have to do it. You don't do just a round shape. You do a straight, and then a little bit of a shape which is going into kind of a corner in here, you know. But it depends if it will look good. I mean, you have to be careful. It has to look nice. And from the front view, by the way, the part that is visible of the skull, the top of the skull is around here in the back. It's just above the ears, around here. You see, the top of the skull is here. It's not here in the front somewhere. It's all the way back here. That's why. And then the skull is going down, gradually going down, and here we will have a forehead style. Sometimes we have skulls that even kind of make this like this, you see? And this even has it. If you notice it, this skull has it. It has this kind of a little bump in here. No, it's not a bump, it's the opposite of bump. It's an indentation there. So, yeah. We can also do that, and it will be interesting. For example, there is this guy, Alexander Usyk. He's a world champion of boxing. And he has a very interesting skull. And since his haircut is very short, you can see his skull very, very well. Alexander Usyk. He's from Ukraine. And you can check him out. I will not put images of him here because it will be too much. I have put a lot of images on this file which don't belong to me, and I'm trying to say which are from where. For example, this probably is either from Anatomy for Sculptors or something else, but we have a lot of things from Anatomy for Sculptors here. But yeah, others also. This is from Seong Kim, Planes of the Face, kind of. It looks very nice, and it's very good exercise to make this, just to try to make this head. And we will try. We will make a lot of heads in this exercises because it's cool and I like it. And also because this will be useful for you. Because you will notice that the more heads you make, the better you will become with the head making. And many people want to be better with heads. So make sure from the top view, your front part of the skull is not like this, for example. It has to be going backwards. It has to curve. This is a curvy part in here. It shouldn't be not curved. It should be curved. You see, in the skull, if I do this, it's not gonna look like here. It has to be a little bit backward. Also here, this part is always a little bit forward. Although, I probably should symmetrize. So let me symmetrize a little bit to see. Okay, now it's fine. And now I will get a little bit more geometry going on. Now, what am I doing here? I'm pressing Shift R. Let me tell you a little bit about Blender because people will ask, but how do you do this? How do you do that? Shift R is just, I'm looking at this kind of a mesh. And every square is showing me how big my squares on the mesh will be. And I'm accepting this, for example. And then with Control R, I'm accepting this. I am not accepting. I accepted it already, but I am applying it to the mesh. That's what I'm doing. Now I will do this kind of things, which are here, which are those areas here with red. And they are over the other, which is kind of a sharp area going out here. And sharp is, I will even sharpen it. So this has to be sharp, and also here below it has to be also sharp. So we'll push below it. And then I will try to make sure my shape is kinda correct of the skull, of the eye socket, I mean. Okay, the shape of the eye socket still is not the best, but it's kind of okay. We will leave it for now, and we will continue with the nose. So, for the nose, we usually making this flat on the top will be enough. But in this case, I noticed that we have something like a bony kind of I don't know, a sharp bony part, which I like to do just for fun. And basically, it's better to look at a lot of skulls, not only one or two skulls, in order to see the details. Because in here, for example, we cannot see too much details on the cheekbones on the front part of the cheekbones. On the side of the cheekbones, also difficult to look at the details. So I suggest you use even more references. I think I have some more. Yeah, here for example. But this also is not very good reference for the cheekbone themselves. Why? Because we don't have too much shadow and we cannot exactly see what's happening here. We see it, but not too much. Here we can see kind of, we have holes, we have some other things. This is kind of cool. We see this, how it's sharp, and this top part, how it's sharp, and this middle part here, between the both eyes here, it's not that sharp. I mean, those things you have to see. You notice, let me show you a little advanced thing. So, the orbit of the eye, the top, is going like this. And then here, from the front view, you start to look at this thing. But the orbit is starting to go back. But from the front view, you don't see that. You see this bump in here. And the other bump in here. But the orbit, the sharp part is going back like this. And the orbit in the bottom is also sharp. Everything is very sharp in here. If you look at real skull and you touch it, it's kind of sharp. It's not like soft thing. Like this are sharp areas in here. You see, very sharp. This also is kind of sharp. Here on the top, it's pretty sharp. Here, it's also sharper, but here it's starting to get a little bit not so sharp. This area is not sharp in here, you see. And this is starting to get not so sharp. It's kind of sharp in here, but in this area it's starting to flow. And, you know, stuff like this. If you make those things sharp, this will make your skull better. But remember, it's not that important. This is not as important. The important thing is the main shapes, the overall look of the skull, the overall look of the head. The skull and the head are kind of similar, which, because the skull shapes are the head shapes. Most of them, not every one of them, but most of them. So here I will make my nose and I will push it in, but not the middle. I will push only the sides. And you see the middle, I'm leaving this kind of a plane which separates the two parts of the nose, of the inside of the nose. Then I will push it a little bit. Then this part is important to make, but in the male skull I see it's a little bit more in, so I will push it inside. And then I will pull the teeth out. Not too much though. I don't want to pull the teeth out too much. Because then if we make a head over this skull, we'll have to push them back at some point. And this will be my top teeth. I'll then push below them, where the lower teeth will be, and I will smooth. So the top teeth will always be above the lower teeth. It's very important. You see, from the side view. And here, it's even more pronounced. I don't want to make them that much forward. Because it's too much for me. You know, I don't like it that much. Because you have to notice that you can make, for example, this skull. Exactly this skull. Which will be useful, of course. But in my case, I want to make a good looking skull. This skull, for me, is not looking that good by itself. But it has things that are very helpful. I will smooth those kind of things here because we have to be careful. They shouldn't be ultra pronounced, except at some guy who is ultra testosterone guy, and that's when you can have this very, very big pronunciation of those areas. And here also you can have this a little bit, and most of the time you have it a little bit like outward, this area here, because you see this is the place where this muscle with which we chew stands on, which is this kind of yellow thing in here. This is the muscle, and this muscle has to have a space to rest on. That's why sometimes this is kind of a hollowed out like this. Hollowed out like this. Not too much though. But if the guy is very testosterone freak and he has huge jaws and stuff like this, then it could be like that. Let's see. Here it's not very visible, but for the female skull we see it's like up. It's like hollowed a little bit. It's looking good if we do that. So that's why I'm doing it. A little bit. Not too much though. I did it a little bit too much, so I will just push it a bit more in. And yeah, sometimes not sometimes, but many times when you're doing a head or overall anatomy, you have to restrain yourself of doing things too much. If you do some things too much, it will be too much, and that's normal. We have to do it just right. Not too much, not too little. Just right. Here I will hollow out the jaw a little bit from the bottom. Of course, if it's the best if the jaw is a separate piece, But in our case, we don't need that because this is an exercise. We are exercising. These technical things are not concerning us at all. We can do it even without. So now, what I will do, I will just push this so the teeth are a little bit away. They're a little bit more. You see how it happens to look a little bit better this way. You know, it's like this, like curving inward, the upper jaw, which looks great. So that's why I'm doing it, because I know it will look great. It will immediately look more like a skull than before. For now, you know, even if now our proportions are not completely correct, even if when we make the teeth, we have to fix some things, it's not a problem. We can always increase the size of the jaw, for example, if we want, or we can bump this up, push it up, or whatever. It doesn't matter. We can always do that. But make sure those cheekbones are the right kind of width here. They shouldn't be too wide or too narrow. They should be just right, as you can see on the skull also. Okay, this is the upper skull, the upper cheekbone. There is no, this is the upper cheekbone, yeah, this is the lower cheekbone. The lower part of the cheekbone, we can say, okay. Alright, don't worry. Now, let's make this a little bit, you know, more sharp, although this lower part is not that sharp. As you saw from the skull from below, which is this is not as sharp in here. The top part is more sharp. This one, kind of, but it's very, very thin. It's there. So it's easily breakable, so be careful when you are, I don't know when you are doing what. And here we have a hole, but we will not have a hole, because we don't care. I told you those are technical things, we don't need them. If you want to do a realistic skull, you of course have to make a hole in here. This has to go in here and be a hole. But in this case, we are only interested in the parts that are interesting us. The parts that are important for understanding the shapes of the head. Because that's the purpose of making a skull. Most of the time, especially for me, when I'm making a skull, I'm making an exercise for the head. And also I'm having fun because I like to make skulls. But yeah, I rarely make this hole in here. And I rarely make the jaw separate, except if I'm doing exactly a skull. But most of the time I'm doing exercises, and when I'm doing exercises, everything is one mesh because it's easier, it's faster. You do the exercise and you continue to the next one. You don't stop and try to, you know, extract the jaw and do the teeth a little bit better and stuff like this. It's not gonna help you that much. Those detailing things are not important in this stage. Now, in the middle, I will make a line, because this will be the line between the front teeth here. And then we'll make kind of a curvy area. Those are kind of arches. So arch here, arch here, arch here. And we will start getting... So if the front teeth are too big, and now they are, I will just push them together a little bit with the move brush or grab brush. Doesn't matter. And then the idea here is for the third row of the teeth. So we have the first teeth, second, and third. The third is our landmark. They are a little bit more like you know, like a vampire teeth, and they from that point on, the jaw is going backward, the upper jaw. So that's why after that we will have one more normal teeth, and then the big teeth will come here, for example, like this. And then I always push the angle here, the top of the teeth, I will push it. And then you can see on the top of the teeth, we'll have this kind of a bumps going upward. Because there is the root of the teeth going up, and there is a space for that. And between the roots of the teeth, we have kind of a indentation space or empty space. You just have to learn to watch, you know. And that's what I'm trying to achieve here. To teach you how to look and how to understand the forms and everything. And of course, the practice. Practice, practice, practice. Constant practice. Probably our upper jaw is a little bit small. Maybe we should make it bigger. Because you see, what I'm noticing. What I'm noticing is the bottom of the cheekbone is here. This is the bottom of the cheekbone, and it's kinda aligns with the bottom of the nose hole, the hole of the nose. And then the teeth will be just below that, but and in our case it's kinda aligned also, but probably this distance is a little bit small. It's not super small, so I guess it's kind of fine. We can leave it like this for now. We don't have too much resolution for now. The idea is that the front two teeth, the most front up two teeth, they are the biggest teeth in the what you see. I mean, those two are the biggest. Then those next to them are kind of smaller. Those are kind of the same size as the second ones, but the first ones, those two are the hugest, the biggest, the most advanced teeth. And then again, a line in here, although the bottom teeth, they are smaller. As you can see those how big they are, and the bottom a little bit smaller. So we have to make them kind of, they have to be smaller and kind of same as each other. They have to be kind of similar to each other. They shouldn't be like bigger and smaller teeth from the front teeth, from the bottom teeth, I mean. Overall, we are just making sure we have something like teeth in here. We don't need to make them super nice. Although, when we are making a head over this skull, I'm making the bad teeth now. If we are making a head over this skull, we'll have to deal with those teeth. Those teeth will be visible, for example. If we make a smile of our head over the skull, then we will have a problem. Now, it's very important to look at this skull and say, but why the back part of the skull is not that visible? In our skull it's more visible. Because most likely it's photographed from up close with a phone or similar device. It's not probably, but whatever. But the field of view is bigger, and then everything goes like this, and you cannot see the back. But our field of view here is normal, it's 88, so we definitely will see the back. If, for example, let me show you a little bit. Sometimes I'm doing this. If I do this like 30 and I zoom it, and you will see how the back is not that visible anymore. All the front areas are exaggerated and big, and this back part is not visible. You never want to use this focal length for making heads. It's enormously bad. So 88 is fine, and now you see the back of the head, and you see a lot of things, and it's looking good. Now we can dial down the upper portion of the head. It could be a little bit smaller of the skull, definitely, because the eyeballs, they will be a little bit down here in these areas. And the eyeballs, the eyes themselves, are kind of the middle of the skull. So, if they are the middle of the whole thing, from here to here, if the eyeballs are the middle, they're around here, so yeah, it's kind of okay. They should be around here. And by the way, the eyeball is around this big. Don't make it this big or even bigger. I mean, no. And you will see with when I'm doing the feedback session, I have some heads from some of my students. They gave them to me, and I will make a feedback. I will try to make them better, and we will analyze them, what is wrong with them. And that's why, that's where you will see some big eyes, big eyeballs, which are making problems. So yeah, if you make the eyeballs very big, they will have problematic effect on your skull and head, of course, not the skull, because in the skull we don't have eyeballs, but on your head. And since we are learning how to do heads here, this is important. Let's see how this... Okay, the cheekbone, as you can see, is going up too much in this guy. Probably with this big jaw and cheekbone going up, he is very attractive for many women, or he was, most likely. He very much is not already, but he was, definitely. But it depends on other factors, of course. It's not only the mainly, things. The manly man areas. This skull, by the way, is looking a little bit upward because I don't know, they just put him and he's tilted a little bit up like this. He's a little bit like this. He's not looking forward. That's why my skull, it doesn't look exactly like him, because my skull, I'm trying to make him look more forward. That's why it's a little bit like tilted forward. Although probably if you're doing it, maybe you should make it look like the skull in the picture, because it's nice to make things like this. But then of course, if you want to make a head over it, it's a good idea. I'm making just this temporal lining here. It's a good idea to just tilt it forward a little bit so he can look forward and not up. I'm not convinced still about this skull, but you see, I'm not making the teeth like this forward. Why? Because I feel like it will be better for them to be a little bit more backward, not so forward, but we'll see. We'll see. That's what I'm feeling. That's my feeling, my gut feeling. I will make sure the jaw is a little bit bigger in this position here. There is kind of a hole, not exactly a hole, but something like a hole here on the jaw. This, because there are two parts of the jaw that are touching the cheekbone. They are not exactly touching the cheekbone, but basically from the side view we see that they are touching the cheekbone. Let's say they're touching the cheekbone. It's that, two parts. One is bigger, and it's the part that overall is the point of rotation. And again, it's not exactly a point of rotation, because when you open, if you touch your jaw in here and open it, you will notice how it's going forward. So this little point here, where it's the point of origin, let's say, it's not just standing and rotating like this, it's moving forward, which is a little bit strange, but it doesn't concern us that much overall. For us, we are making a skull with closed mouth, then we will make, faces with closed mouth. Maybe the lips can be, for example, I can open my lips without moving my jaw. I can, not making the jaw at all, not moving the jaw at all. So it's not a problem to make a smiling man, for example, or a female, without moving the jaw down. Of course, if your character has to scream, it has to be some kind of a rage character like Wolverine or something, then probably you need to move the jaw, and then you have to remember how to move the jaw. You have to take the jaw, move it down, and move it forward a little bit. And then this part here will go a little bit like this. So the jaw will look something like this. I don't know why the nature is making this way, but you can see it for yourself. If you touch here, just below the ear, and then open the mouth, you will notice how this is going a little bit forward. So I again advise you to touch yourself, but it's cool. I mean, touching yourself is absolutely normal, and nobody can say otherwise. If they say otherwise, they are not normal. I mean, even masturbating is normal. Don't worry about it. It's absolutely cool. It's not something that you have to be ashamed of. And I'm sure that most of you do it, so relax, it's okay. It's fine. We all do it. Doesn't matter. Don't let the old prophecies and stuff like this scare you, or to think that you are a freak or something. No. It's absolutely normal. Now, I think we have a decent shape of skull for 40 minutes. Yeah, I usually can make it for, 15 minutes, but with all the explanations and stuff like this, 40 minutes, it's okay. Of course, that's why we're doing this, to learn, to teach. I'm doing it to teach, you are doing it to learn, so it's fine. But we can also, what we can do is just inflate this area just here a little bit. Okay. And we'll see. Let's draw a head over this and see if we can make it. If we can make a nice head over this. Let's just draw it. So, of course, here it will be kind of close to the surface. it will be a little bit away. Here we'll have a little bit more meat. Here it will be kind of close. And then the nose will be something like this. But remember, here we have a lot more meat. So we'll have something like this. And mainly the lips are touching around the area where the teeth are touching. If we open our lip, maybe a little bit lower, maybe a little bit upper, it doesn't, I mean, it's okay. Okay, so the nostrils will be around here. Let me see. We cannot see it. There is cartilage in here. That's why you cannot basically touch this part of the bone here, because the cartilage. This top of the bone here, usually you can't touch it because the cartilage is softer. But the other part is a little bit more in, like this. So then we'll have indentation here below the lower lip always. And then we'll have this like this. Here it will be thinner. This area is thick, pretty thick. Yeah, many people cannot do it properly over the skull because they don't know that this area is very thick in here. The lips are pretty thick. They have like thickness 1 finger, for example, or something. Then like this. Then, of course, our neck will start from here. The neck muscles from the back and then going outward. Those two parts are parallel. We'll have the sternocleidomastoid going down like this. And basically we are kind of okay. I mean, seems pretty nice. Of course, this is the whole of the ear, just above, just in this area around here. And so the ear, where it will be? If this is the middle of the skull, the ear will start from the middle of the skull backwards. Even sometimes a little bit more back, but not too much. Not too much. So this will be our ear in here. Amazing ear I'm doing. And our eyeball will be around this area. And then the eyelids above it. And we will be amazing. And then we have a face. Of course, in the next video, we can basically try to do a head over the skull. And of course, don't think that we will not modify the skull when we're doing the head, because sometimes we will see some things that are not absolutely correct. And especially if your skull is not very good with proportions and everything, of course your head will inherit that, which will not be the best. But yeah, these are exercises. It's completely normal for some things to be wrong or something like that. So yeah, sorry about that. It's normal. I mean, some people are calling and everything. It's absolutely cool. It's not professional, I know, but it's cool. We have to acknowledge that, you know. Oh, but Nico, this course is not professional. You have people calling you while you're doing the course. Why don't you edit that? Because it's more natural this way, you know. And it's not a big issue. I mean, you know, it's not a huge issue. Now I'm doing just a little things, but I think it's fine. And we can save it. We always need to save. So this will be for blend. The 4 lesson. We need to save it, and then we will start doing a head over this one. But the idea here is that we will do a male head over this one, which is okay. We'll do neck, we'll do the nose, we'll do all the things. We will put even eyeballs inside. And as you can see, we have in one file, because it's faster. It's very much faster to do exercises like this. We just hide the others and just do it. This is our first head that we did. Then we did the skull from planes, and then we did this skull. And of course, it could have some issues, this skull, but we'll see. We'll basically see. I'm a little bit concerned about this area here, but I think it's almost like a normal skull. So yeah, maybe it can go a little bit forward, this one. But as I said, we will fix it at some point. Okay, see you in the next video. This one is pretty long.